welcome to another episode of Change of Pace Weekly. This time we're changing things up as the cricket world slows down and gears up for a return. Today we are going to an old rivalry, a rivalry off the cricket field, but more in the band room between Vital Signs and Junoon. Before there was Coke Studio, before there was the great Atif Aslam, before the Gels and the Roxans and the EPs, there was the Vital Signs and
Roxanne.
Roxanne.
I used to call them Roxanne.
With us today,
Roxanne. I'm just kidding.
As a special guest, but not a special guest because he produces all of our shows. We've got producer Sarfaraz, as you guys probably know from the commentary. And just to give you a little background on what the hell he's doing here today, he composes a little bit of music, plays a little bit of piano, plays a little bit of guitar, does a little bit of everything in terms of music. And he is the sole person responsible behind my first ever Junoon concert. Before that, I didn't know they were as good as they were that night at the Dubai Duty Free Tennis Stadium. And I didn't rate them before that, but I have to say it was one of the most prolific concerts of my life. And we've seen The Weeknd and stuff together. I really understood the impact of Junoon in Pakistan culture that night. And on the other hand, we have Vital Signs, good-looking Junaid Jamshed, rest in peace. A man with a beautiful voice, with bangers after bangers. Songs that range from all the way from women to culture to sports to cricket. And today we're going to figure out what's special about each one of these bands and if there was a rivalry to go with. So Fraz, since you're the guest on the show, we'll let you go first. What do you make of Junoon as a band? What makes them so special? And what happened for them to become such a phenomenon?
Hi, Masad. Hi, everyone. Great to be on the podcast. I think if you have to talk about Junoon and Vital Signs, you have to go back to kind of like the socio-political history of like the early 90s. You have to talk about like what was happening in the time when these bands were coming out. So Vital Signs was like a couple of years before, their first album came out a couple of years before Junoon. And so they had a very different style that was like a synth pop kind of feel. And Junoon had a very different sound. You would say that maybe Junoon had a more of like a political angle, although that was more solidified in their later albums. But like Shuru Mein Toh, I think they were a lot more overt about their kind of like socio-political observations. But yeah, that's basically where they started off from. I don't know if there's a rivalry per se, but there's definitely an overlap in terms of bandmates. Pata nahi logon ko pata na ho, but Nusrat, who used to be their lead guitarist for Vital Signs, and then he switched over to Junoon for one album. Yeah. So
how often does that happen in music where a bandmate just switches over? When it happens,
did a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. देखो ये भी देखना पड़ेगा ना कि pop or pop rock music in the early 90s in Pakistan was quite nascent. इतने ज़्यादा मतलब bands नहीं थे जितना as much as we try to romanticize it, but काफी overlap था. You know, musicians were like playing with each other and there was a lot of overlap in terms of like bands and stuff.
Faja, let me ask you, because I know that we've done so many games together on commentary. We've spent a lot of time together, picked a lot of music together, a lot of playlists. And I know for a fact that Vital Signs is probably part of your DNA by now, which is why I want to ask you about Junoon first. If I put you to the test and I ask you top 3 Junoon songs for you that really get you going and that really put them on the map, which ones would they be for you?
Yeah, reducing Junoon to just 3 tracks is almost impossible. But one that definitely comes to mind is Kyun Pareshan Hai Tu. I really love that song. It's like a roving ballad and it has a lot of tones to it. It's a bit melancholy, thoda fast bhi ho jata hai. And you know, Ali Azmat, the great Ali Azmat, he really shows his vocal range on that. Let me just expand on what Sarfaraz was saying. Basically, Vital Signs was like, agar aap logon ne Phil Collins ka suna ho, Genesis uski ek band hoti thi.
Yeah.
Very famous in the late 80s. So it was very similar to that, but a bit of bubblegum pop, thoda sa produced tha, thoda sa wo tha, a bit, you know, shades of the Genesis hota tha. Junoon was pure like rock and roll in the early inception, like when they started out, pure rockers the. मतलब बाद में जाके उन्होंने अपना फिर एक सूफी पॉप और थोड़ा सा ये अंडर द गाइडेंस ऑफ सलमान अहमद वो थोड़े से निकल गए थे कि भाई दिस इज अ गुड गिमिक फॉर अस, इस पे हम निकल जाते हैं.
2-3 एल्बम्स निकाल लिए उन्होंने उसमें.
हाँ, उस पे उन्होंने घसीट लिया और थोड़ा इंटरनेशनल हो गया जी. U2 of Pakistan, which is such a cringe label because U2 is absolute garbage. So anybody who likes U2, please log off
I
immediately.
swear,
U2 is the
इन दोनों से
worst
पूछ लो
band
पहले
ever.
U2 है कौन?
U2's the artist that comes on your iPhone now, right? That's the only way I remember them. I remember my English teacher was a U2 fan, and that Genesis was my first ever cassette, actually from Phil Collins, the great Phil Collins. But Sarkil, I know that you're banging out some Vital Signs tunes on your keyboard these days. I'm really glad that you're finally using that as well. But again,
so what's that
I feel
supposed
like
to mean?
you know what it's supposed to be. You've got a foot in both camps. I feel because whenever we're jamming out to Vital Signs or Junoon, you're equally involved. I know Sarfaraz is a Junoon bias, and AZ clearly has a Vital Signs bias. What again? I want top 3 tracks from Junoon, top 3 tracks from Vital Signs. What would they be if I put you to the test?
Well, my bias is Vital Signs. Okay, because of JJ. I just have a really soft spot for JJ. Growing up, I listened to a lot of JJ without even knowing it was JJ back then. And then later on, a lot of Vital Signs as well. And then later on, I was like, oh, okay, I was listening to this before. But because I am also very a gham hour person as persona मेरा, तो आपको पता है कि मुझे जो gham जो Vital Signs के गाने में है ना, वो जुनून के गाने में नहीं है. जुनून के गाने में शायद hope few गाने, it's like, but Ali Azmat's voice doesn't do it for me. It just doesn't do it for me. It has to be.
लेकिन सरखेल आप अगर पीक गमार पे मुख गए ने अगर आप सुनो ना
सर मैं ये कह रहा हूँ
it's right in the fields bro.
I'm not saying it's not there. I'm not saying it's not there. It's there. But Vital Signs just did it better.
Yeah, I feel like the aesthetic of Vital Signs was definitely a lot more sort of like thoda mellow, thoda introspective, thoda Coldplay, and you know.
I gotta.
Oh my God, Sarfaraz, how dare you? यार
मैंने तोड़ दिया है कैंप को यहाँ Vital Signs के.
But Sarfaraz, I'll ask you this. I mean, when we first met, we were doing a roadside theater production, and you were like, you have to perform a Junoon song with me, and I said, hell no, because I didn't want to get anywhere near Ali Azmat. I'm not going to use Coldplay an example because I respect Vital Signs a lot more than that. But I will say, do you feel that Vital Signs is a lot more like digestible in terms of their, like they don't play it, they don't push the boundaries. But when you made me listen to that album and some of the tracks that Vital Signs Junoon did, my mind was blown. I was like, how is like, you know, this is happening. They're basically like the Metallica, well, not as hard rock, but as big as Metallica was in the US as they are in Pakistan.
Yeah, you're right. So I think in terms of purely musicality, Junoon was definitely pushing the boundaries a lot more in terms of like styles or techniques musically that they were using, more than Vital Signs. Vital Signs was just definitely a lot more palatable, especially in their early mid-career, experimented a little bit in their last album, Hum Tum. Especially in terms of production and stuff. But yeah, in terms of the kind of like, for example, riffs they were using or guitar solos they were playing, different terms of instrumentation that they were playing around with, Junoon was definitely pushing the boundary a lot more compared to Vital Signs. That being said, Vital Signs definitely had their own moments where they were doing stuff that was not so like overt, कि देखो हम कितने cool हैं, हम कितनी amazing techniques use कर रहे हैं, but like a lot of interesting like, you know, riffs or like chord changes that they were also doing. So it wasn't like all bubblegum pop. काफी interesting चीजें Vital Signs ने भी की हैं. But obviously like
उनके like if you listen to Challa or you listen to Ajnabi by Vital Signs, वो दोनों काफी different, काफी mellow, काफी you know थोड़े से edgy से गाने हैं. But
Ajnabi is great to see that they did experiment. But maybe is a lot like that was not there at that time. It is still new for that era. So, it was an experiment at that time.
No, for sure. And by terms of experimentation, जैसे हम तुम जो album थी, it wasn't experimental in terms of musical ideas, but like production वगैरह बहुत interesting थी कि एक musical like sort of like there's like an ambient sound happening and then it flows into the next track. It was quite mind blowing क्योंकि cassette पे मैंने खरीदी थी, if you guys know what cassettes are, and it was like kind of like a free flowing experience. That was very interesting. But at the same time, this Junoon was also pushing the boundaries in terms of production. कि उनकी production quality, every album just got more and more insane. आप उनकी album Parvaz, for example, which came out in 97, I think, 97, 98 में आई थी, recorded in Abbey Road Studios. And like, उसकी drum sound जो है वो I don't think कि पाकिस्तान में मतलब अब जाके maybe like Nicholas and whatever are recording at that quality, but like उस ज़माने के लिए it was.
It's funny that you mentioned that their sound was insane because as time went on, their band members also became insane.
Yeah.
So that went hand in hand.
Ali Azmat ka was Zaid Ahmed phase yaad hai? Actually, we all had a Zaid Ahmed phase.
No, speak for yourselves. I didn't.
No, exactly. Speak for yourself.
Yeah, speak for yourself, bro.
I've never had a Zaid Ahmed phase.
आप लोग, you guys were just a bit too young, but it hit us right in the sweet spot.
My dad made me sit and watch a Zaid Ahmed show.
Yaar,
We
we were all in on Zaid Ahmed.
I wasn't.
Both of these bands, Vital Signs and Junoon, they have a clear space of their own on the social political map of Pakistan. They have great history. None that have come after have been able to emulate their success in terms of tours, albums, and sold records. But only one of them was banned by the People's Party. So only one of them really got to that point. And we've seen in the history of music, whether it's the civil rights movement in the US or even in World War II, music has been such a huge part of transitions for entire societies. Is it fair to say that Junoon have had the bigger impact politically?
यार ग्लोबली भी जुनून का वो था ना कि they went to the UN और ये जो उन्होंने Central Park में concert किया था, and Salman Ahmed was a brilliant he was a bit of a marketing genius, you could say, the way he guided Junoon into the forefront as the the rock with the U2 of Asia, और ये वो slogans शुरू हो गए थे और इंडिया में भी वो बहुत ज़्यादा उस वक्त popular हो गए थे, and they got that marketing push from India, so they became quite big. And of course touring and all that, and Vital Signs were of course they're more mid-90s late 90s, so wo of course wo market was वक्त established नहीं हो गई थी, plus Junaid Jamshed had started his solo career that eventually gave it all up, became a TV evangelist and all that. So it was slightly different eras. I think Vital Signs was 90s में ही रह गए, but Junoon, they kept dragging it along. They kept milking it for what it was worth, even into the early 2000s. So
even now, even 2 years ago, I went to their concert in 2017. Was that Sarfaraz?
नहीं, but आप भूल गए ना उनका. I think 15 साल या 2 decades का काफी gap था कि भाई हम कभी भी दोस्त नहीं हो सकते. We hate
2019.
Okay.
Yeah, that was also I think ये भी एक बड़ी important factor है कि Vital Signs की maybe like legacy उनके previous completed albums के अंदर है, और Junoon just sometimes would मतलब you have to let things go sometimes and like end on a high, but like Diwar was like bad and Ishq was like average, and तो इस तरह की चीजें होती हैं. Sometimes you just have to know when you're quit when you're ahead, और वो नहीं किया उन्होंने. But at the same time हाँ, जैसे like AZ was saying कि उनकी थोड़ी सी marketing.
यार एक आप देखो एक बड़ी बात कि एक पाकिस्तानी बैंड 2 एल्बम भी दे दे अच्छी तो बहुत बड़ी बात है, but these guys they gave us 3-4 superstar albums के यार. एक full complete playlist है 20-25 गानों की जो evergreen रहेंगे.
But AZ, do you feel like maybe उस जमाने में हमारे पास इतनी like choice भी नहीं थी, or like
who were other bands with them? Who were the bands?
Maybe we didn't know any better.
Strings. Don't get me started.
Strings was late 90s, wasn't it?
I had a feeling. I was so afraid Strings was going to come up today.
No. So technically, Strings was early 90s, and then they took a hiatus for completing their education, and then they came back.
They should have stayed on that hiatus.
Oh come on! Let's not give Strings
on the spectrum of like feel good escapism. I would say Strings and Vital Signs are like here. Like that kind of like let's all sing together.
You can't put them together. I think it's insult to Vital Signs and JJ's legacy and Royal Hayat that तुम strings और रोहिल hayat को साथ डाल
Can we
रहे हो.
also talk about Rohil Hayat? And he also मतलब उसका भी एक काफी interesting tangent create हुआ post their dissolution. Band के बाद he went into more of production. I watched this really crazy Harvard video where he talks about how he isolated himself in his room for a year with plants and would just listen to like pure frequencies, like I don't know, align his chakras or something.
This is very relevant. Did you see that video going around of the orchestra playing to a bunch of plants?
Yeah.
What? No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
After all of that, his recent endeavors with Coke Studio have been absolutely crap. Elephant in the room, white man in Pakistan. Tell me about the white dude in Junoon, Sarfaraz. What the hell?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Yeah, how that happened?
College roommate tha na, or something like that.
Yeah, college roommate tha. Also have to understand that these, I mean, they were pretty affluent. Like Salman in itself was pretty affluent. America पढ़ने गया था. तो एक अलग दुनिया होती है यार ऐसे लोगों की, तो आप इतना उसको परेशान मत हो. White men आ जाते हैं पाकिस्तान भी. But from a musical perspective, I would say that
bass guitar तो उसके अच्छी थी.
He was like उसने लाइव डाली है जुनून के अंदर, underrated AF in terms of his musical contributions. आप कोई भी इनका पॉपुलर गाना उठा के उसमें से अगर आप बेस निकाल दें, the song is arguably reduced down to some B-list pop rock band that was in the 90s. Jupiter style हो जाता है. Groove or like experimentation Bryan की by.
So basically, after the Red Hot Chili Peppers, this is the most important bassist in music.
निकल गए हो यार.
Ali likes this comment. Ali Abbasi likes this comment.
Hey, I mean,
By the way,
RCP are up there.
Brian was the first white influencer in Pakistan. Then came Cynthia Di Ricci, Eva Zubek. ये बाकी सब बाद में आए थे. He's the first white influencer in Pakistan.
वो याद है जॉर्ज का पाकिस्तान, याद है वो बंदा?
वाह, जॉर्ज का पाकिस्तान.
George का पाकिस्तान भी था.
He's still around.
I remember sitting with Sarfaraz, and he had a lot of good things to say about Bryan. And then when we went to see Junoon and obviously subsequently Bryan, he was so like, his personality on stage is not, he's not a rock star. You saw like Salman was like all over the place, and I don't know what Ali Azmat does, because the man sang for 3 hours. For 3 hours. He had one break in the middle, song after song, banger after banger.
I wish this was a Coke. I wish this was a Coke.
Yes!
I got you.
It was just, I have never seen that energy. I mean, so we even went to see The Weeknd. We've seen Eminem, and I still say Ali Azmat has more energy than those huge brands.
That was probably the longest
superstars.
concert I've seen. That was the longest concert I've seen. And maybe he took like a tiny break.
ऐसा बस होता है यार, crazy concert.
बहुत crazy concert, बहुत crazy concert. But in terms of Bryan, I would say that all bassists generally in all rock bands are बहुत ही मतलब इनकी personality जो होती है वो sort of grounding सी होती है, because they have to also from a musical perspective they have to lock in with the drummer. तो उनके पास ज़्यादा गुंजाइश नहीं होती आगे पीछे होने की. And also just I don't know why like bassists are just like very like grounded.
Yeah, very very grounded, very very chupchap, because
जैसे वो है तुम्हारा favorite greatest ever band का bassist है तुम्हारा.
Yeah, Guy Berryman. Yeah, he's the same.
पर तुम नहीं इसकी तुम्हारा क्या नाम है जल के bassist
जल का bassist.
Oh,
nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
I have the craziest Shazzy like story. If we can do a small segue.
Let's do a Shazzy segment.
So Jal was supposed to perform. Well, they performed at the 14th August celebrations in Los Angeles, and so they performed. उन्होंने सब कुछ कर लिया, जबरदस्त हो गया. हाँ, it was, they always do it. Like they always bring some musician to like do the 14th August thing. So after the performance was done, Gohar and what's the other guy's name?
Farhan. How dare you?
Farhan. They were just like mingling with like the crowd, thoda sa, like trying to see what's up with the opposite gender and stuff, like thoda sa, what's going on type scene chal raha hai. And then I'm like watching them, and like मैं पीछे देखता हूँ और जो stage है सारी लाइटें बंद हो चुकी हैं, and stage was like this, the really ऊंचा वाला stage जैसे यास वगैरह पे होता है, and the staircase is going down, and you could see Shazzy, and he was wearing like this whole Matrix Neo वाला जो leather वाला वो नहीं होता
with the glasses
bottom वाला and अरे रात का वक्त है, and he's just sitting there just like What's going on? Someone has to turn him on or what? Like,
inki videos mein, he looks like that. The Secret Service guys that the president has. He could be one of those people.
That's it. Yeah. But speaking of personalities, when you look back into recent history in Pakistan, we've lost a lot of big names in music and politics and sport. I don't think there's a bigger name that we lost than Junaid Jamshed. I remember TV. I remember even my family, my distant relatives. It was just catastrophic. Obviously, the way he went was horrible as well. But just the gravitas that he had within the Pakistani community. Khwaja, I don't know what the question here is, but I want you to help me understand the impact that he had on you personally and how that resonates with the rest of Pakistan.
Basically, I personally got into Junoon like in late teens or early 20s. So वो उनका impact थोड़ा बाद में आता. Vital Signs right from as a kid, 8, 10, 12, 14-year-old, I was really into them. And तो फिर वो childhood memories भी होती हैं. And of course, Junaid Jamshed की इतनी unique आवाज थी. उनके ऐसे गाने थे. So his death was like, अभी भी,
that was one of the probably the hardest celebrity deaths to affect me. Yeah. After Chester Bennington.
Because
probably.
In my mind, he's still that fresh-faced, beautiful guy.
Yeah, bro.
Beautiful angelic आवाज. वो उसी phase में अभी तक फंसे हुए. वो जो एक Maulvi stage आ गया था.
I still think of him as that person. That Maulvi thing never existed for me.
It never exactly.
It's wiped out of my head.
I remember him more as the religious preacher because that's where I saw him most of his time. But when I listened to him, if it was during Ramadan or YouTube or whatever, when he was on the telly, he was still he used to really give off this peaceful, calm vibe. He wasn't like a finger pointer, It was just this very approachable kind of personality, very kind personality. I don't know as a fan of his, I don't know how that transformation affects a fan because it's quite drastic in terms of where he was as a rock star, and then he went out to become a preacher essentially.
He was a heartthrob too.
Exactly. आप उसकी personality छोड़ो, उसकी आवाज इतनी खूबसूरत और सुरीली और sweet. Oof,
I remember. I think I've attended one Vital Signs concert.
You're a lucky son of a gun.
In the mid-90s, I remember. Yeah, and there's this one moment I cannot forget it. And for that moment is probably just like Junaid Jamshed's most iconic moment in my head. So they finish a song and it's like an upbeat song, and the crowd's going wild. और फिर उसके बाद the music dies down, Junaid Jamshed, and it's like a very tall sort of stage. This is in Karachi, and he walks up to the edge of the stage and he starts telling this story कि हम जब कॉलेज में हुआ करते थे तो हमने बहुत मजे किए हम दोस्तों के साथ, लेकिन जब हमने एक लड़की देखी तो हमारी जो हवाएं उड़ गईं. And then as he's saying this, he sits at the edge of the stage, right? No music, nothing, and then he just and the spotlight hits him, and then he goes walk on and right? Yeah. And then the crowd is just and I'm like, man, what a showman, right? This guy just had the crowd हाथ हथेली में था. He was a great showman.
Speaking of showman, Shoaib Mansoor का बहुत बड़ा हाथ है.
Yes,
behind
absolutely.
The success of Vital Signs with his videos, and of course I think lyricist भी था उनके लिए काफी कुछ उनकी arrangements वगैरह भी Shoaib Mansoor ने, he was a very big part of their early success.
Their videos were amazing. I remember the first video I ever saw. I must have seen them, but my first video is probably Naat To Aayegi. I mean, that's not Vital Signs, that's Junaid, even then. But
Dil Pakistan, Dil Pakistan.
वो तो मैंने पहले देखी थी.
Revolving camera.
Yeah. And those shirts also, the shirts, bro.
Yeah.
The shirts.
So 90s, yeah. So 90s.
So 90s. No, but I think that video, especially just say 90s wali, and the whole that vibe, it was such a fresh vibe. उस ज़माने के लिए, you had to be there, and it just represents this very cool, liberal kind of idea of
उनकी हर वीडियो में fog जरूर होती, धुंध हमेशा होती थी. It was Junaid Jamshed in a foggy background, and all that stuff. It was unbelievable, too good.
Yeah.
यार बारिश वाला भी यार, बारिश का सीन भी बहुत था मौला में.
Mawla. Crazy video.
Mawla was a crazy video.
यार मुझे तो वो दो गाने जो Sarfaraz, again I was introduced by you, Samadi Saloni, and the other one that he did as a juxtaposition. I was just like, this guy.
Shikwa and Jawab Shikwa.
Exactly. I thought it was super cool.
Can you imagine those kind of songs now? You'd be cancelled in 1 minute. Yaar.
He got cancelled and then he got woke.
Yeah, he covered both bases. वो कर्फ्यू लग गया था खेल का. But but again, huge personalities. We also do have to talk about Ali Azmat. He's again he hasn't had that. He hasn't had that crazy transformation, or he hasn't gone through those phases. But he still had he still has that insane impact on the crowd. Like I saw that night in Dubai, people were going crazy when he walked out. I was like, who is this guy? And then he performed for 3 hours and he was incredible.
You should have been in the front where I was. I'm telling you. I know what you felt. You would have felt it a lot more if you were Sarfaraz in the front. Kasam se bahut crazy.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel like I missed out that concert.
Because I've been to my fair share of concerts. I've been to Coldplay 2 times. They're my favorite band. But the most fun I've had was at Junoon, hands down. It was crazy.
यार जुनून की मेन बात ये थी कि क्राउड थोड़ा मैच्योर था ना, थोड़े अर्ली 30s लेट 20s वाले बच्चे थे, तो you know crowd वो मेला crowd नहीं था जो you expect, you know
also nostalgia sells, you know, like there's like 20 songs that you all know by heart.
It was like banger after banger. It was insane, and all these people around me with their kids, they were all singing to it, and I was like, this is something. This is a moment to cherish.
And when they played Khab, I think they played, or the lights were on. Fuck, that was so good, bro.
But Sarfaraz, we've always talked about music in Pakistan. We've and there's one theme that always pops up is that we are our music is very lyrics driven. It's very vocalist driven. On the wide spectrum of extremely talented vocalists in Pakistan, here's his shrill voice, his screaming rock star. Where does Ali Azmat stand?
Yo, I mean, I grew up like AZ, you know, more listening to Vital Signs. So like watching something like Junoon come up was jarring, to say the least. You know, कि ये क्या हो रहा है? The funny thing is though, like my dada, who was alive at the time, saw one of his music videos, and like he saw him and he immediately went, ये बंदा जो है ना बहुत बड़ा है, rockstar बनने वाला है. Like he's going to be a huge deal. उसी वक्त कह दिया था. I don't know what it was about Ali Azmat that, बस वो एक time and place wali baat hoti hai. You know, he had like this huge hair at the time. He was also, I think, kisi drama mein tha, jiska usne OST bhi khud
Yeah. I remember he was in drama.
Yeah.
So like, Junoon वालों का drama बना था ना, उनका ही I believe.
उनपे नहीं, I think he was an actor in a drama.
यार main बात है उसकी range इतनी ज़्यादा है यार वो Ali Azmat की. He can sing at such high pitches and you know and all that. तो बंदा कहता है यार.
And you know, in his post Junoon days, like in his Coke studio appearances, यार I am just in awe of like his musical, like एक तो knowledge होती है बंदे की कि यार मैं बड़ा knowledgeable हूँ, और उसकी फिर interpretation होती है. उसके पास दोनों है. Like उसकी तुम I don't know if you remember 90s में एक show आता था वो फंसी जका वाला On the Fringe.
On the Fringe, yeah.
So there's a Ali Azmat episode for On the Fringe on YouTube. You should go check it out. यार वो बंदा Prince की albums, Queen की albums, just he's listing them off. ये अच्छी है, इसमें ये गाना अच्छा है. Musical knowledge बहुत deep है. And obviously then he has the vocal chops to like back that up.
I mean, I know he won't be remembered. He won't be remembered for this because he's done maybe arguably greater work. But I heard Papu Yaar and stuff. That was a great song that was always on the TV. In the summers I used to see it on like the music. Exactly. But I saw he did Man Kunto Maula with Javed Bashir, the great Javed Bashir, which is not इस चीज पे हाथ डालना मतलब छोटा काम नहीं होता. And I saw like back then they used to do trailers in Coke Studio, and I saw and I remember like people around me saying, this is gonna be a disaster, this is a disgrace to, you know, the Kalam and all of that, and this is gonna be a train wreck. And he murdered it. He absolutely killed it. He was phenomenal, as we like to say on the show. He was that track was, I thought, in my perspective, unbelievable. Just to be in the same space as Javed Bashir as a vocalist is an achievement for any person.
Yeah, exactly. और आप ये देखें कि Coke Studios sort of viral, like, you know, success was also on the back of Garage Baras, which was the first episode.
The one with Rahat.
Rahat, yeah.
Yeah.
So
where you were at that shooting, right?
Yes, I was.
That's exactly what he wanted you to ask. So well done, Nishan. You fell for his trap. You fell for it.
Thank you very much.
Let's bring that up.
Coke Studio में
man, I can't bring that up, man. Cancel हो जाएगा, boy.
Yeah, that's cancelable stuff.
जो रंगीला track बनाया था recently Coke Studio, वो भी जबरदस्त गाना था यार.
Yes, man. He is like melodies. Crazy.
Sarfaraz, I want to say your granddad was right. Ali Azmat did become the greatest rock star in Pakistan, hands down. No one else, I think, has come close.
Shout out to
No
my
doubt.
dada, yeah, man. But I feel like also there you have to consider the fact that getting banned is also one of the greatest signs of like successful होना है तो ban हो जाओ. You know, ये भी एक बड़ी जबरदस्त चीज होती है करने के लिए. Not to say that Vital Signs didn't have political songs. I don't know if
change your face को ban कर दे.
हम YouTube से 3 दफा ban हो गए भाई और कितना चाहते हैं
कोई change your face को ban कर दे एक दफा.
Yeah.
But no, we can put out a piece against Imran Khan and then see where that takes us. But
yeah, no, just to but if you just we talk about Junoon, उनका आप start देखे with नींद आती नहीं, तलाश और वो नी हीरे, you know, pure hardcore rock, you know. फिर उसके बाद then they went into Sayoni and Sai and you know वहदहू ला शरीक लो, and they completely changed. Obvious वाज़े तौर पे उन्होंने अपने आप को एक you know transform किया. वो भी चलो we can say it's a kind of cynical, but यार दाद देनी चाहिए कि इतना बड़ा transformation आप ला सकते हो. और आपने एक सूफी रॉक एक genre है जो कुछ था नहीं और अभी भी नहीं है, लेकिन सलमान अहमद ने बोल के उसको बना दिया एक चीज.
Right, list your, are we at the stage where we list our 3 favorite songs from each or not yet?
We're going to close out the show on that, but I want to bring in cricket here because where there's music, there's cricket. With this cricket, there's music, and Pakistan is synonymous to both of them. I told you guys know this, that I my first experience with cricket was not Pakistan.
ये बालाजी वाला action क्यों मार रहा है यार?
Lance Cruiser, bro.
Lance Cruiser, Zulu.
Cruiser and Balaji, yeah. Anyways, but I want to have that conversation because you guys know my first exposure to cricket was not through Pakistan cricket. It was through the Ashes in 2005, where the whole Flintoff and it was just probably the greatest test series of all time. But
मतलब तुम कितने कोई बर्गर हो?
This is not something to be proud of. This, by the way,
you don't choose this. You don't choose this. You don't choose this. You don't choose this. It was given. I mean, I was with my granddad, my nana, and we were watching it together. Brilliant series, brilliant sport. Obviously, naturally, I went and I searched Pakistan cricket. I was like, okay, so this is something we're actually good at, because before that I used to watch football and we were nowhere to be seen in that sport. And so I was like, okay. And I remember watching it online. The first thing I saw was a YouTube montage of Wasim Akram's wickets with Sayoni playing at the back.
It's an odd choice, but
Sayoni भी और 2 पल का जीवन वाली वो जो वीडियो है बेस्ट ऑफ पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट वाली, even now those were posted on the early days of YouTube. वो अभी भी आप जाके देखो यार, आपके goosebumps खड़े हो जाते हैं देखते यार क्या, you know, रज़ाक बॉलिंग कर रहा है, शोएब बॉलिंग कर रहा है, 2 पल का जीवन को टेन वो फुल टाइम गिटार बज रही होती है. It's crazy यार, the you know symbiosis between
juxtaposition
with the Pakistan cricket, वो तो of course fast bowling है वो यार, वो तो एक natural mesh बनता है वो तो, it's Pakistani at its height, you know.
But again, even then they knew that the success of something like Sayoni, which doesn't make sense on a cricket video, but I thought it was a cricket song. And I remember Sakhil, abhi 2 saal pehle मैं तुम्हें कोई video भेजा था, उसमें भी Sayoni थी. But when it comes to cricket, Jazba Junoon, Dil Dil Pakistan, anthems. You know, some people I know say that the Dil Dil Pakistan is like an alternative anthem to the Pakistan's actual national anthem. So
it could be. Why
but
not?
if you had to pick one, Sakhil, which hill are you going to die on?
ये क्या कुछ सवाल?
I know the hill I'm going to die on is going to be Jazba Junoon.
Junoon, it came out in the 1996 World Cup. I remember कि यार 24 घंटे PDV पे लगा होता था, मुसलसल लगा होता था. And then of course था भी इतना epic. ऊपर से एक वही YouTube montage style है, उसकी वीडियो थी वही cricket highlights, मियां लाल भाग रहा है, इंजमाम चौके मार रहा है. तो जज्बा जुनून of course यार.
Bro, and it was the 96 World Cup, so it was right after our victory, so it was also that kind of like montage की एक अलग power थी.
और क्रिकेट एंथम्स के हिसाब से भी आप देखो तो जज्बा जुनून के साउंड ही इतना बहुत अलग है. बाकी सब बड़ी से है, लेकिन जज्बा जुनून has its own.
Pakistan does not get the same kind of josh out of you that Jazba does. ठीक है?
No, definitely. I feel like Dil Dil Pakistan की जो strength है ना, उसकी strength उसकी melody है और उसकी lyrics है. Melody बहुत अच्छी है. And you know, even Junaid Jamshed in his post music career would often like TV पे आके वो बहुत गाता था दिल पाकिस्तान, क्योंकि उसको ये तो बहुत अच्छी
चीज. He sang it at Salman Ahmed's house also, I think, in a video once.
Yeah. So I think Dil Pakistan, especially the verses, Dil Pakistan, the chorus is pretty simplistic, easy to sing along to, but उसकी verses बहुत अच्छी है. Like it's a really beautiful melody. but Jazba Junoon का hype का next level.
It's insane.
और the synth horns जो आते हैं ना उसके अंदर.
That's like choosing between your grandfather and your grandmother. Yeah, कैसे कह सकते हो यार?
नहीं, I think it's grandfather and like your aunt, distant aunt. It's more like that.
क्या हो गया?
नहीं, I mean, I won't say that. Yeah.
हमारे स्कूल में पाकिस्तानी जब होते थे, we had those international UN days and stuff. जज्बा जुनून नहीं बरसा था, दिल दिल पाकिस्तान बरसा था as an anthem.
Of course, यार, of course.
क्योंकि इतना important था, मतलब and again we were introduced to that song. I was introduced to that song before Jazba Junoon. But the impact that it has in a cricket game, Jazba Junoon wins.
Cricket impact Junoon wins, but because you cannot use Jazba Junoon on like a national day because that sounds like
exactly.
War.
Exactly.
So we have to do that. It has to be a cricketing sense for Jazba Junoon.
Yeah. We're nearing the end of what has been a very interesting show. I think we've really dwelled into the impact and the greatness of both bands. Couple questions to end the show with. First of all, I know again AZ's gonna say it's gonna be picking between your mom and dad. I don't want you to put you in that position. But if you had to let one go, which one would you keep between the two bands? I'm gonna ask all three of you. We'll start with Sarfaraz all the way around, and top 3 tracks from each band. Sarfaraz, let's go.
I would keep Vital Signs because that's
okay.
my bias. So let me start with Junoon. Top 3. I think it would be Yaar Bina. Okay. Nindat Nahi and probably Tara Jala. Yeah, I mean these are
interesting choice.
These are the things that I relate to in my childhood. I probably, if I heard the other songs more, I would probably, but these are the things that I really relate to. So for Junoon, it's these 3, and for Vital Signs, it's Ajnabi, Yaad Karna, and a very specific version of Etabar that is a live version with I think Salman Ahmed on the guitars.
The more famous one.
Amir Zaki.
Amir Zaki on the guitars.
Etabar कह दी है तो ये बताओ, is Etabar a happy song or a sad song, please? ये तो बता दो.
It's what you feel at that moment. It's about what you feel.
It's the most cynical song in the world disguised as a romantic song. प्यार भी हो ही जाएगा, चलो तो सही. Like, come on, man. No, man. It's cynical AF. But yeah, it's an Amir Zaki.
क्या हुआ अगर जिंदगी जरा उलझ सी गई, सोचो तो जरा जंगलों में भी रास्ते तो हैं यार. Of course, it's a sad song.
I feel like we need to, Sarfaraz, you need to get your guitar. We need to end the show with the Etabar rendition. But okay, let's do your
wait, Ajnabi, Yaad Karna and Etabar.
Ajnabi कितना class song है यार.
Amazing यार.
Sarfaraz, over to you.
If I had to pick between Vital Signs and Junoon, I would say Junoon because the Sayoni intro is what got me into, and probably 100,000 other kids into playing the guitar.
यार आप अभी भी सुनो, you get goosebumps, man.
Yeah. It is iconic, like that impact, यार, जो पूरे subcontinent में हुआ है, just those 2 notes, and everyone's just like,
and not just Pakistan, India, maybe that song was so big, yaar.
So big.
It made Junoon global, basically. That song.
Yeah, I also feel they like Vital Signs also kind of, I mean, not to like shit on them, but like they sold out a little bit more than Junoon sometimes. So I would say maybe in terms of like the musical integrity, Junoon was probably a little stronger. I'd like to have them around.
But Sarfaraz, आप देखा जाए तो Vital Signs was always, bubblegum pop. Junoon had that more, cynical. If I would say, But I would also say that Vital
maybe
Signs
Junoon wouldn't exist without Vital Signs.
Produced है कि भाई एक प्रोड्यूस चीज है, उस पे हम रहे हैं फिर बाद में. लेकिन जुनून तो पहले जी हम रेबल्स थे, हम बैन हो गए थे, हम ये हो गए थे, फिर बाद में वो निकल.
I think वो yin yang का scene है थोड़ा सा. हाँ, ये तो है. I think top 3 tracks for Junoon would be खोई खोई आंखें, वो कौन सा यार जो हुस्न वालों, and
that's the one we did.
No, we did what was the one we did?
We did Bulia.
No,
Bulia and Talash.
Talash, yeah. But Ghum, you should check it out. It's on Parvaz. Headphones track, strictly. Very bold, like, choices in how it's produced. Vital Signs ke andar, Do Pal Ka Jeevan. I wouldn't say like maybe in this order, but Do Pal Ka Jeevan, Yaad Karna, shout out to very great, like amazing.
That just hits harder now. It hits even harder.
Yeah. And that music video is also like this next level. Yeah. And top number 1, as overplayed as it is, I think At the Bar is gold.
Could you repeat your your Junoon picks? The 3 Junoon picks?
क्या थे यार? खोई खोई आंखें, हुस्न वालों, and Goom. But I mean, like, if you ask me, मैं albums rank करूँगा because these like सभी अच्छे हैं, you know. It's like it's hard to pick.
What about you, AZ? I know who you're gonna keep.
It's gonna be Vital Signs. Yeah, Junaid Jamshed is like a demigod in my eyes. That guy, nobody compares with him. The connection I have with their music, Junoon, amazing, बहुत amazing thing. But I got into them a lot later. Vital Signs right throughout my childhood and all the way through the teens, and even now, it has to be Vital Signs for me. The top 3, yaar, बहुत tough hai, yaar. Let me say.
Now he's picking between his children.
Exactly. Junoon ka top 3. Muk gaye ne is amazing. Kyun pareshaan hai tu, I love that one as well. And yaar, maybe Ni Heere, I love Ni Heere as well.
Ni Heere. Kini tatni?
Oh, ये देख इधर ही शुरू हो गया, इधर ही मार.
I'm sorry, mate. As soon as someone says Ni Heere, you just have to complete that whole sequence.
यार वो जो guitar entry होती है, crazy यार, बहुत जबरदस्त. Vital Signs के top 3 यार, ये तो बहुत मुश्किल है. यार दो पल का जीवन has to be there. And तुम मिल गए यार, तुम मिल गए is just eternal यार. It will never die. That song is, Ajnabi is too good, Challa is too good. इतने गाने
मिल गए का that high before the chorus, सारे पैसे उस high के हैं.
नीदा खानम वाला high है क्या?
Signs के top 3 तो कभी नहीं.
Second most iconic high in Pakistan.
Okay, rank your highs. Rank your highs.
Well, that one time I went to Lahore, but
okay, fine, nice.
I get it now.
Okay, Khwaja, Vital Signs ki repeat kar do, please. We kind of lost that list at the end.
यार दो पल का जीवन has to be there, नामुमकिन has to be there, ऐसा ना हो ये, then I really love that song as well. Yeah,
deep cuts, very nice.
Okay, it's been a good show. It's been a different show. It's been.
तुम बता दो.
यार, honestly, मुझे Vital Signs के तो obviously Sayoni has to be there.
Vital Signs के Sayoni.
Sorry,
बंद करो.
You see why? Do you see why I didn't speak? Do you see why?
This is why you're just the moderator.
Junoon ke, you're putting me on the spot here because I don't know their.
Junoon ke वो लम्हे and आदत are very nice.
यार देखो, जल पे ना जाओ. अभी अगला एपिसोड मैं खुदा की कसम पूरा एपिसोड जल पे कराऊंगा तुम लोगों को बिठा के. No, but if I had to pick 3 from Junoon, I think it would be Sayoni. It's the first song that I heard on that cricket video. It would be the one that we performed, Talash. Amazing. The guitar on that was insane. And obviously Jazba Junoon, because cricket.
Very safe choices.
Yeah, I mean, because I haven't done those deep dives. Ek album मैंने सुनी थी because Sarfaraz made me. It was really, really good. Ek mahine ke liye I was obsessed with that album, but then I kind of got over it. Vital Signs, again, very superficial picks. Dil Dil Pakistan, obviously, At the Bar, because every single campfire we go to, it's played and it's beautiful. And Tum Mil Gaye is a personal favorite as well. It's really cool. Those are my picks. It's been a great episode, a different one. It's put me on the spot, made me uncomfortable, and it's been very enlightening. I thank all of you for being here today and also helping me understand what was probably the greatest era of Pakistani music in terms of pop and rock. I would like to end the show that I think the only musician that has ever come close to the legacy of these two is probably Atif. I know you're going to disagree with this. I don't want to get to this, but the impact.
Atif goat hai yaar, no doubt.
Okay, anyway, I'm taking over the exit now. Thanks for coming to another episode of Nusad's Pakistanization. Next week we'll do Frank Ocean because no more Jal.
Atif is the greatest in the history of Pakistan. I'm willing to place this bet.
यार क्या हो गया तुम्हें?